Welcome to The Explainer, and a special welcome to you, Venkat. Today, we're going to jump into our time machine and head back to the incredible medieval world.
So we're not just going to learn history today, we're going to investigate it. I want you to think of yourself as a detective, okay? The past is our crime scene, and we're here to solve the mystery, one clue at a time. Ready to crack the case? All right, every good detective knows the first rule. You've got to establish a timeline. So, to solve the mysteries of medieval India, we first need to figure out exactly when we are. We are stepping into a huge and really complex era called the medieval period, or you might know it as the Middle Ages. It's basically this incredible bridge connecting the ancient world of old empires to the modern world we live in now. And trust me, it is absolutely packed with kings, battles, and some really game-changing ideas. Now in India, this period lasted for an amazing 1100 years. That's a massive slice of time, right? So to make it easier to investigate, historians split it into two main parts. You have the early medieval period, which goes from the 8th to the 13th century, and then the late medieval period, which takes us all the way up to the 18th century. So who are the key players in our investigation? Well, in that early period, we're looking at powerful dynasties like the seafaring Cholas in the south and the warrior clans of the Rajputs. Later on, new powers show up, the Turks and Afghans, and that all leads up to the rise of the legendary Mughal Empire. You know, the guys who built wonders like the Taj Mahal. These are the people whose stories we're about to uncover. Okay, detective, time for our next clue. We know when we are, but where are we exactly? What was this land we call India actually called back then? The answer you'll see isn't as simple as you'd think, but it is way more interesting. You know, long before it was commonly called India, the subcontinent had a bunch of other beautiful names, like Bharatvarsha. It was also known as the land of the people living along the river Sindhu, which, believe it or not, is actually where the name India eventually came from. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, Venkat, get your notepad out, because this is a really important clue that trips a lot of people up, especially in exams. The word Hindustan. Today, we think of it as just another name for the whole country of India. But back in medieval times, it meant something much more specific. It usually just meant the lands that were controlled by the rulers in Delhi. The idea of Hindustan as the entire country we see on a map today, that's actually a much more modern idea. Getting that difference is crucial for any history detective. So the medieval period wasn't just super long. It was a time of huge, game-changing developments that totally shaped the future of the entire subcontinent. Now, don't just think of these 4 points as a list. Think of them like a chain reaction. First, you get new interactions between people from the north and south, between Hindus and Muslims, and this creates a brand new, vibrant mixed culture. Then you have powerful empires like the Mughals who bring in a long period of stability. And what does stability lead to? You guessed it, economic growth. Trade just explodes and cities start popping up everywhere. And when people and goods are moving around, so are ideas. And that's when we see the spread of Islam and the rise of these powerful devotional movements like Bhakti and Sufism. See? These 4 changes are basically the engine that drove medieval Indian history. So you might be wondering, how do we know all this stuff? How can we be so sure about what happened hundreds of years ago? Well, it's time to open up our detective kit and look at the actual evidence that historians use. Every good detective relies on 2 kinds of evidence. First, you've got archaeological sources. This is your physical evidence, the fingerprints of the past, stuff you can actually see and touch. Then, you've got literary sources. Think of these as your witness statements, the written accounts from people who were actually there. To solve any historical case, you absolutely need both. Let's open up our evidence bag of archaeological sources. I mean, we've got the big stuff, like majestic temples and towering forts that tell us all about religion and war. But the small clues are just as important. A single coin can name a forgotten king. A rusty sword can tell us about battle tactics. Even a simple piece of pottery can tell us what people were eating for dinner. Every single object is a piece of the puzzle. Coins are like little time capsules. They are so important because they often have the ruler's name and the exact year they were made right on them. This helps historians pinpoint exact dates for major political events. Seriously, they're some of the most reliable pieces of evidence we have. So let me ask you this. Why would a king go to all the trouble of carving announcements onto a solid rock or a metal plate? Well, think about it. Paper crumbles. Ink fades, but stone and copper, they last. If you're a king and you want your laws, your big victories, or your generous gifts to be remembered for 1,000 years, You carve them in stone. It was the ultimate way to send a message to the future.
Okay, so we've dusted for fingerprints and we've collected all the physical evidence. Now it's time to hear from the witnesses. Let's open up the case files and check out the literary sources, the incredible stories that people from the past left behind for us.
First up, we have the Chronicles. Think of these as the official court records, written by historians who were paid by the king to write down everything that happened during their rule. This is the official story. So from a book like the Tariq-i-Firoz Shahi, we can learn all about the laws a sultan passed, the battles he won, and even how his government was set up. And then we get the more personal stories, biographies, and even autobiographies. This is where we hear from the individuals themselves. I mean, the Mughal Emperor Babur actually wrote his own life story, the Baburnama. How amazing is that? We get to read his own thoughts and experiences in his own words. One of the best ways to really understand a place is to see it through the eyes of a visitor. These accounts, which we call travelogues, are an absolutely priceless source of information for our investigation.
So you had travelers like Al-Biruni and Ibn Battuta who journeyed all the way from Central Asia. Their accounts are like gold mines for historians because they noticed all the little things that local people might have just taken for granted. They wrote in amazing detail about everything from social customs to the price of vegetables in the market, giving us this incredible outsider's perspective.
A bit later, European travelers started to show up. Guys like Marco Polo from Italy were just completely blown away by the bustling ports and the incredible wealth they saw in India. The stories they told when they got back home painted this picture of a land of unbelievable riches, and that sparked the curiosity of an entire continent. And later on in the period, men like Sir Thomas Roe came from England, often as ambassadors to the Mughal court. Their letters and reports are absolutely crucial sources for understanding the very beginning of the relationship between India and England. So here's the most important point, Venkat. By studying all these different sources, the coins, the buildings, the chronicles, the travel stories, you're not just reading history. You become the historian. You become the detective, the one who's solving the puzzle of the past. Great work today, detective. We have uncovered some truly amazing clues about India's medieval past. Now, I want you to go assemble your own team. Share what you learned today with your friends, because trust me, every mystery is easier to solve when you've got partners. The past is just full of stories waiting for you to discover them. Keep exploring.